Hello and welcome to Quarterlight, your car brochure channel, and in today's episode we're going to be looking at the Vauxhall Magnum. Hello and welcome back to Quarterlight. Now if you're new to Quarterlight, we're a car brochure channel here on YouTube, looking at car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s and sometimes beyond that time as well. So if you're interested in cars, car brochures, looking back on cars gone by, really all about the memories, then please do consider subscribing to Quarterlight. It really does help. So back to today's episode, and like I said at the start, Vauxhall Magnum. Somebody asked me to do this brochure sometime last year, and apologies, I've not got round to doing it until now, and I can't remember who asked for it, but it's a nice choice, so let's throw that on the board and learn a bit more about this very interesting car. So here it is, quite a plain white sort of background, and there's a little area showing the car itself, quite simply saying Vauxhall Magnum, and the badge at the bottom there. On the back is rather nicely the back of the car. Let's zoom in on the rear there, because that always gives us a nice chance to have a look at how it is badged and the script for Magnum and 2300. Overall, I quite like the styling of these, and they are an interesting car. And I must admit, 70s is kind of like my favourite sort of era for car brochures, really. I like the designs. I think on the negative side, I think 70s is probably the worst era for rust on cars, so unfortunately they're pretty rare cars today. They're certainly original untouched models. I wonder how many of those there are. I'm sure there are some restored examples. Moving down, we can see on this particular brochure we do actually get a little bit of a dealer stamp as I zoom in a little bit better. So HC Underwood Limited, Vauxhall main dealers in Boscombe, in Bournemouth, and a little bit of a telephone number there as well. Also on the top there it says Vauxhall Motors Limited, Luton, England. There is a code on there ending 73, so I'm assuming that's meaning it's a 1973 brochure printed in England by Hunter Print Group, Radlett. And if it is 73, which it looks like, that's very early for the Vauxhall Magnum, of course. Went from sort of production date 73 to 78. So, always nice to see these earlier brochures. If we just move back to the front of the brochure again, and then I guess we should zoom in onto the main image as well. There we go. And you can see straight away what an interesting design these are. Badge again, 2300 there on the grills. They're showing this is a larger engine car for the UK market, really. That's quite a big engine for the UK market at this time. So what are we looking at here? It is an interesting looking car. So the Magnum was basically an HC Viva with a larger engine in it, a bit more luxurious on the inside, so higher trim levels. And you can see we've got 4 rather than 2 headlights at the front. So an interesting car overall. I always quite like these. You think Viva and then you think, oh, it's a Magnum. Nice looking car. And certainly if you bought one of these in 73, it was something a little bit special, really. Something a little bit different with these larger engines inside. Let's open the brochure up first, and when we open up we kind of get this sort of like flap before seeing a nice side shot. Bit of a talk for those interested in brochures, a little bit of a thicker quality, almost like a sort of cardboard feel to this particular brochure, so a probably more expensively made brochure in this particular material. Now we saw at the front there they were showing the 2300s. It will tell you in here that was also, you could have a smaller engine, 1800 version of these as well, but I think personally if you gain something like this, I think the 2300 sounds a little bit more interesting, doesn't it? But even an 1800 is for the UK at least, is a larger engine for those shores. We'll read this text, then we'll open this flap and have a look at the main image and then read through it. What you find on this brochure, it is quite a big brochure actually, quite a wordy text. Two minds really. Some people like me to read everything, some people like me just to get on with it. I think I'm going to read as much as is reasonable, which probably would mean a larger, longer video. But anyway, we better get on with it. So it starts by telling us why a Vauxhall Magnum. So it starts by calling it the Viva Magnum, which I don't know, maybe it was referred to that at the time, but I just quite simply always known these just as a Magnum. But the Viva Magnum has been designed for the man who wants the excitement and enjoyment of driving a car with a sporty performance, but who also wants and needs the kind of room and luxury only this car can give him. Very 70s straight away, talking about, only possibly a man could possibly want this car. The Viva Magnum is one of the few cars in its class that has achieved this rare blend of performance, room and luxury. Whether you choose the 2 or 4-door saloon, the sleek coupe or the generous 3-door estate car, you have the satisfaction of driving a very individual car. Inside, the keynote is luxury, fitted carpets, cloth upholstery, seats, padded armrests and integral grab handles. On front doors, a distinctive fascia. The story goes on and on. Outside, there are classic good looks and distinctive Magnum badging. The big radial tyres on special styled wheels give a clue to the car's performance. Under the bonnet is the performance story, a choice of powerful OHC engines, an 1800 or a big 2300. They produce the kind of performance figures that many sports cars would envy, apparently. Couple this to power with the positive handling of rack and pinion steering, the grip and road holding of a wide track radial tyres and a refined suspension with anti-roll bars front and rear, and you can see why the Magnum is in a class by itself. Viva Magnum, perhaps the only exciting luxury car at this price. So when we fold it out, we get this a pretty large sort of size when you compare it there. So a pretty big brochure when you open it up like this, and rather nicely showing this blue example of a Magnum 2300 2-door. And I quite like the 2-door. It looks interesting. Wheels are particularly unusual. I don't know if I remember those wheels or not. But overall, a pretty interesting car. Like I said, I keep saying that, but quite interesting to have a 2300 in this particular car in the UK in 1973. And this is actually quite a sort of modern looking colour as well, isn't it, for 1973? Very nice. Rear bumper, I don't know why I'm drawn to that rear bumper there. Doesn't look straight, does it, when you compare it to the light? I don't know if it's supposed to be like that, but I don't know. That kind of annoys me a little bit. But other than that, interesting. We've even got colour coordinated cap, fuel cap. Those unusual wheels, like I say, I don't remember these, although it might have been quite a standard piece of kit. I really can't remember. But anyway, let's move on to the text. The Magnum 2300 is the bigger engine member of the new Viva Magnum range. This is a car tailored for performance. The big 2.3 litre OHC engine gives you rapid acceleration, which is impressive by any standards. Anti-roll bars front and rear, coupled with wide 175 HR radial tyres and rack and pinion steering mean that the handling and cornering are precise and responsive. The road holding is as stable as you would expect from a car with Magnum's performance figures. Stoppings, fast too, with dual servo assisted brakes with front discs and self-adjusting rear drums. The Magnum 2300 is available as a 2 or 4-door saloon, a 2-door coupe, or as a roomy estate car. The keynote for all these body styles is sleek good look. Their lines tell you what you can expect from the car in the way of performance, but practicality and comfort haven't been sacrificed to performance. Whichever model you choose, inside you'll find all the room and comfort you need. The Magnum may have sporty overtones, but there's no sports car crampedness or bareness. There's a full-size family room, comfort and luggage space, and the styling is as sleek and luxurious inside as it is outside. The tiny print at the side there is telling us it's the Magnum 2300, but it says sub-Magnums will be fitted with road wheels of a style different to that illustrated. Okay. Doesn't tell you which models get these wheels, but it says you may possibly get different ones. And just quickly pulling that back again. So yeah, it tells you the 2300, the big engine model, comes in a wide choice of body styles. And so you get a 2-door, so this is your 2-door saloon, of course, or you can have this as a 4-door saloon. And you can also get it as a 2-door coupe or as a roomy estate. We saw the coupe version, just a reminder. That was the one that was on the front and back cover. So that one would be your 2-door coupe rather than the 2-door saloon. A little bit sleeker at the back there. I think I prefer the 2-door coupe over the saloon, but nevertheless, interesting cars. Moving on. Okay, so when we turn the brochure back and find out where we're up to, we find out we're still looking at the 2300, looking at the dashboard, a little bit of a talk about, what it's got. We will find out later on that the 2300's dashboard is this sort of 7-dial system. The 1800 is much more basic, sort of just a speedometer and sort of like a fuel gauge one, so that is much more basic. But anyway, we'll have a look at the text and we'll come back to this interesting image. Okay, so it reads, sit behind the soft covered sport steering wheel of the Magnum 2300, settle back into the body hugging seats, clip on the inertia reel seat belts, and you know that you're in a performance car. The fascia houses a bank of 7 sports instruments, a tachometer, speedometer, trip meter, clock with a sweep second hand, petrol, oil and temperature gauges, and a battery condition indicator. At a glance, they provide you with the information you need to get the most out of your Magnum 2300. Suddenly we all want to do that. Also on the fascia are the controls for the mixed air heating system, the heated rear window and the through floor ventilation system, as well as an ashtray and a deep glove box. Mounted on the column are the controls for the 2-speed plus pulse wipers and the electric washers. The rest of the interior is just as impressive, reclining body moulded seats up front and individually tailored seats at the rear. All of them are upholstered in brushed nylon for your comfort. On the floor there's deep pile carpeting throughout, which adds to Magnum's rich feeling of luxury. As a final touch, front doors are fitted with deep cushioned armrests with integral grab handles. Throughout, the Magnum 2300 has been designed to combine performance with luxury and comfort, not just for two, but for a family. So not a bad dash with plenty of instrumentation for the time. Sadly it's all black. I kind of like something to break that up a bit, but nevertheless it's the 70s. So yeah, we've got this 7-bank gauges. We've got them sort of like ball type ventilation ideas which you turn and swivel, which I always thought was really nice. I always like that sort of idea. It looks like we've got some kind of like light indicators on one side, telling you things like high beam, left right indicators, ignition, oil pressure, brake, rear demist. So all of the instrumentation really for that time period. The steering wheel, not the most exciting, but I guess it's a little bit sporty at least. And moving on in this brochure means when we turn the page away from that two-door saloon 2300, it takes us to the Magnum 1800 and kind of like the first glimpse of the smaller engined version. We'll start with the text this time and then we'll come back to these images. It tells us from the same stable as the big engine Magnum 2300, the 1800 is also very much a performance car with the same brand of driving excitement. The performance comes from the punchy 1800 OHC engine, road-hugging handling from the 155 SR radials, tight cornering stability from anti-roll boys front and rear, fingertip responsiveness from direct rack and pinion steering, and controlled stopping power from dual circuit servo-assisted brakes with front discs and self-adjusting rear drums. Like the 2300, the Magnum 1800 is available as either a 2 or 4-door saloon, 2-door coupe or as the estate, and they all boast the same luxury appointments as the 2300. Brushed nylon body hugging seats, fitted carpets, cushioned armrests on all doors, fitted inertia reel seat belts and fitted carpets. It doesn't really sell very much by today's standards, but for 73 that was almost classed as being luxury. Again, the Magnum 1800 offers you an exciting blend of sporty performance with saloon car comfort and luxury. So there it was kind of like telling you all about how the 1800 is the same as a 2300, then it starts telling you that it's actually different. So up front, the Magnum 1800 varies slightly from its big brother. The fascia panel is a different layout designed around two dial instrumentation, but again the instruments are read at a glance, providing you with the essential information you need. When it comes to gears, both the Magnum 1800 and the Magnum 2300 offer you an attractive choice. For the man who wants to get the maximum sportiness from his Magnum, there's the fun of a full synchromesh manual floor change fitted as standard. And for the man who would like to enjoy Magnum's performance in a more relaxed manner, there's the option of a smooth GM auto change. I'm sure most people in the UK, of course, would have gone for the manual, of course. I always think it's strange with cars around this time how they insisted on giving you a different layout. So the fascia panel is a different layout designed around two dials. You'd think in a production line it would make more sense just to have that standardised on all your models, but you know. But I think they kind of, I don't know if it was really trying to get at a lower price point. I don't think it was. I think it was more about move up to the 2300 because it looks a little bit nicer. I don't know. Seems a strange way of looking at it, but anyway, I'm starting to waffle, so let's move on to the pictures. So you will of course notice the main difference is of course the badging is different. So 1800 there on the grille now. This looks like a white example, but if you notice, this particular model's got a vinyl roof on there. Not sure why the other one didn't, although you will notice this is the first time seeing the 4-door version as well. So we've seen all the models apart from the estate or all the different variations in them. So again, certainly a nice looking car, and certainly I wouldn't mind having the 1800 version. I think they're just interesting cars that kind of like we've forgotten about really. Moving on to the inside, we can see on the inside this is the 1800's 2-dial instrumentation. When it's talking about 2-dial instrumentation, you got a speedometer, and what is your second one? Temperature and fuel. Considering it keeps using words like luxury, there isn't that much in there. Pretty standard, possibly a little bit of a sporty looking steering wheel. And then it shows a couple of pictures there of either your manual or your auto. And then we turn the page and it gives us our first look at the estate version, and even a little bit of an introduction on the coupe version that we did have sneak peeks for there on the front cover. Let's start with the text for the estate, then we'll come back to these images. The Go Anywhere Do Everything Magnum that lets you be yourself. Whether you choose the 1800 or the 2300 engine models, you can be sure that this car will give you exhilarating performance, ample load room and full family size room and comfort. Between the back door and the rear seats, there's 27 cubic feet of usable space. Fold down the rear seats and there's 51.5 cubic feet of room for luggage, sports gear, pets, or anything else you wouldn't expect to be able to carry in a performance car. And the Magnum estate looks like a performance car. It's low and sleek with clean, crisp lines that say speed. This is the car for the man who lives a full life and who wants more space in his car than a saloon can give him. Starts by giving us a glimpse on the inside, and actually I quite like those seats in that colour, I must admit. Certainly there is an obvious omission that there's no head restraints on there, but other than that it's not too bad and breaks up all that black. There is the estate, and I always thought what an unusual design the estate was with that huge rear window. Very unusual overall. We can see those unusual wheels on there as well. Gold kind of like suits this period as well. I like them, but I must admit I don't think they are my favourite design, the estate versions, although I know a lot of people really like the design of these. Certainly it gives you more room for lugging things around, so certainly a more practical car. Although if I've said this, I've said it 100 times, I've never understood the idea of having a two-door estate car. Anyway, moving on to what actually is my favourite. I think this is the most attractive of the designs. The coupe version certainly would have been my pick of the group. We'll look at the text and we'll come back to the images. The Magnum Coupe looks just as sporty as it is. The long sleek lines and the low profile suggest the exciting performance the car is capable of. Like the Viva Magnum Saloon, the Coupe is available with either the powerful 1800 or the big 2300 OHC engine, and a choice of a 4-speed all-synchromesh manual gearbox or the smooth GM auto transmission. The standards of handling, road holding and ride are just as high, with a refined suspension, radial tyres and an anti-roll bar front and rear. It's the same story inside. Magnum luxury all the way. Deep soft seats, body moulded for comfort and trimmed in brushed nylon. Ample room for 4 people to relax. Ambler upholstered doors and padded armrests and integral grab handles, deep pile fitted carpets that give that extra touch of luxury. Like the saloon, the coupe's fascia varies depending on the size of engine you choose. With the 2300 you get the full 7 dials sports instrumentation, and with the 1800 those 2 dials which we saw earlier. Whichever you choose, you get the essential information you need at a glance. Magnum luxury and performance with coupe styling, an exciting combination. So there is the coupe with those wheels again. Like I say, I think that is my favourite design, or for me anyway. I mean, everyone's different and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think that's my favourite design of the models we can choose from. So if I had a choice, that would have been my personal pick. It also, if I just pop the screen down, it also gives you an idea of the door card, and also a reminder you've got different coloured door cards and seats depending on your exterior colour, of course. Just a reminder, that is your 7 dial setup for the larger engine 2300, and the simpler, more basic version, this 2 dial setup for the 1800. So as we turn the page, we move on to kind of like your end pages, as it were. The complete car is talking about things like reliability and standard equipment. We'll touch on some of this. I don't think we're going to read it word for word though. And then the specifications, which we'll have a look at as well. But let's start here and see what interesting information we can pick out. So it starts by introducing it, saying, you know, few cars are so complete, etc. Standard Vauxhall equipment, we get a complete underbody seal, power assisted braking and front discs, heated rear window, reclining front seat belts, wall to wall carpeting in passenger compartments, an alternator, 2-speed wipers and electric screen wash. Vauxhall safety features, of course, we're not talking about ABS and airbags, etc. We're talking things like anti-burst door locks and child-proof rear doors, energy-absorbing steering column, safety design fascia, etc. So, pretty much safety features that are pretty much unlooked at today because they seem so basic. But anyway, moving on. It talks about Vauxhall quality, resisting rust, tells us we get a complete underbody seal, up to £23 of it, interestingly, and up to 7 gallons of protective paint. You'd think these cars in the 70s would, all that treatment, you wouldn't think they would be touched by rust, but Vauxhall, like other manufacturers, still had their rust issues in the 70s. Then it talks about reliability. Interesting here, it talks about every day cars are selected at random from the production line for an intensive 600.7 hour quality audit check. Interesting. And production cars are also regularly given a 4,000 mile in 3 weeks reliability test, in programs equivalent to 12,000 miles of average running. And it starts telling you that the tests are taken from that Millbrook test proving ground. And then it talks about servicing, follow the service plan, etc. And you get a 12-month or 12,000 mile warranty. Moving to the specifications now, so like we say, 2 engine choices. So the 1800 was a 1759cc engine. Installed torque 97 pound-foot at 3000 RPM. And it looks like we've got an installed BHP of 77 at 5200 RPM, single downdraft carburetor. And then the 2300, the 2279cc engine, let's have a look, 140 foot-pounds at 3000 RPM and an installed BHP of 110. Twin variable choke, side draft carburetors, 1823 engines, 2300 engines, cylinder inclined at 45 degrees, 5 main bearing crankshaft, overhead camshaft with silent tooth belt drive, cross floor cylinder head, patented easy tappet adjustment, twin outlet exhaust manifold and a pre-engaged starter motor. So transmission, gearbox is 4-speed all synchromesh with central floor mounted shift. We can also, of course, get the auto transmission at extra cost, of course. Now, I'm not going to read all this word for word, but certainly if you ever really want to look at it in more detail, please consider, pausing the screen and reading that. I'm pretty sure you would be able to read that yourself. Just moving down to the suspension, which is front independence, long and short wishbones with coil springs, suspension units mounted on subframe attached to underbody at 4 rubber cushioned points to isolate road noise, anti-roll bar, rear coil spring, 4-link system, anti-roll bar, not on estate, steering rack and pinion, turning circle between curbs 32.2 feet. I always think about that when I see the turning circles in cars, and I can't really picture distances too well. I don't know, I've just never been able to. So what is a good number for a turning circle? You tell me. Brakes, servo assisted brakes, discs at front, drums at rear, dual circuit system. We've got those styled steel wheels, so they're not alloy wheels, even though they look a little bit like them, but they are interestingly styled, a different size for the 1800 or the 2300. Electrics is 12 volt, of course, negative earth system, alternator, pre-engaged starter, heated rear window, 4 headlamp system, separate side lights, column mounted switch for headlamp dip, headlamp flasher, horn, flashing turn indicators, column mounted switch for 2-speed plus pulse windscreen wipers and electric screen wash. Interior light, front door courtesy switches, luggage deck interior lamp with tailgate courtesy switch, estate only. We get a boot lamp, headlamps protected by thermal circuit interrupter for fuses protecting other circuits, instruments. 1800's got those twin dials, speedometer with trip distance and total mileage recorder, fuel and temperature gauges, warning lights for brake pressure, oil pressure, ignition, main beam and turn indicators. 2300 of course has got that 7 dial system, speedometer with trip distance and total mileage recorder, tachometer, clock, battery condition indicator, separate fuel, oil and water temperature gauges, warning lights in centre panel for main beam, turn indicators, ignition, oil pressure, brake pressure and heated rear window. Moving on to the bodywork, rigidity built, integral body chassis unit, 11-stage anti-rust treatment including primer, deep dip, body, side members sprayed inside with alumininised bitumen compound, underbody seal applied to entire underbody and undersides of wings before mechanical components fitted. Sill panels treated with plasticized chip resistant paint, final finish over primer coats, 2 double coats of magic mirror acrylic lacquer, firmly refloored to give hard glazed surface. Heating and ventilation, swivelling face level fresh air vents, concealed air extraction vents at rear, fresh air blended, heater ventilator with 2-speed booster fan. So fuel capacity is 12 gallons and it takes you through all the dimensions, curb weights, of course the Coupe is the lightest, followed by the 2-door saloon, 4-door saloon, and then of course the estate is the heaviest, which makes sense. It rather nicely gives us the colour schemes. Unfortunately there isn't a colour chart, but still nice that they give us the exterior colours. We can have flamenco red, monaco white, yellow gold, ruby, sunglow, cedar green starfire, Riviera blue starfire, hot grey starfire, champagne starfire, olivine starfire, blue fire, gold starfire and platinum starfire. Interesting. And then moving down still further, talks about accessories. So accessories we could get is a radio, an aerial, exterior mirrors, fog lamps and switch kit, reverse lamps, hazard warning device, towing attachment, trailer electrical coupling device, mud flaps, front and rear, locking petrol cap, vinyl roof colour kit. So I guess that explains why that 1800 had that vinyl roof on there. It was a accessory you could get on all of them apart from the estate. Rear seat belts, and then the usual clause that we can change things at any time, of course. So there we go. I hope we've enjoyed this Vauxhall Magnum brochure. I certainly have. It's certainly an interesting brochure and an interesting car for sure. Wonder how many Magnums are still around. If you got a Magnum, please do jot it in the comments, or if you owned or driven one, certainly love reading those, or indeed just your views on these lovely cars. Yeah, the episode's gone a bit longer, but they tend to do on these more wordy, longer brochures. I hope you don't mind too much. But thank you so much for watching today. please do join us again soon. Of course, if you're new, you got to this point, you've got to subscribe, haven't you? Subscribing is completely free, and there's lots of episodes in the back catalogue, so have a look at those. Certainly always appreciated people that go back and start looking at the older videos. Thank you so much for watching. Please do take care. All the best. Goodbye.